This is the Pizza and Hummus Podcast.
So why would you listen to the Pizza and Hummus Podcast?
Am I right, Barnaby?
Here we go. Now, here we go. Here we go. Now, here we go.
Oh!
I laughed way too hard at that. That's the worst thing ever.
And welcome back to the Pizza and Hummus Podcast.
Hey.
What's going on?
Oh, nothing.
Nothing. Well, I think you're wrong because there is something going on.
We got something going on.
We got something going on. This is Vince, your host, and always with Richie.
Hey.
Hey, what's going on? And today we have two very special guests. They're from the Moist Definitely podcast. You can find their comedy shows at the Canton Brew and the Crooked
Rusted Crow.
Rusted Crow. We're getting there. We got Bryan Deuchler and Brian Harrison. What's going on, guys?
Hey, how's it going?
Thanks for having me.
No problem. Let's just start talking and let's get weird.
Sounds good. Welcome to your podcast.
Welcome to our podcast.
Yeah, what the fuck are you doing?
I don't know.
Thank you for having us on our podcast.
You're welcome.
It was the least you guys could do, literally.
That's what I do.
We
in
take
life, is
over
the least.
shit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We're here at our new podcast. We got a new location.
we taking over.
I told you I liked your house.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to leave.
It just, like cuts to later. You're just like walking around in a robe. Just be like, oh, you're still here.
Yeah.
Remember when I asked you for your autograph earlier?
Yeah, that was actually on the deed.
Yeah.
to the house.
Is
Signed it
that
over.
a Ferris Bueller reference?
I don't know.
I'm sure it is. You're still here. Like, get out of here. Leave the dog. And the cannoli. That's an even older reference.
Yeah. That's a Godfather one, right?
Yeah.
Leave the cannoli.
One
All
of
right,
you's
guys.
Italian, I'm assuming, so I had to make that reference.
Right.
Yeah.
I didn't want to assume. I thought that'd be racist, so
You'd think, but no.
I was just gonna sneak in some questions like, hey, which one of you have a lot of doctors in the family, and which one of you has a lot of opinions on tomato sauce? And then I would have figured it out.
Narrowed it down
Yeah,
from there.
well, for a second we said doctors. I'm like, I don't know any Dr.
There's no-
Aquilani's.
No Italian doctors.
And,
You want
and
someone who
you,
can
how many
study?
doctors do you have in the family?
One, loosely related. No, two. Okay, there's a lot.
Okay,
There,
so
I
like
said it.
everyone.
Fine. And if they're not a doctor, they're in a hospital somewhere. Everyone works in a
That's
hospital.
fair. See, I was gonna be sneaky about it, but we got it out in the open.
Believe it or not, one computer scientist. It's not. We're really breaking all bounds.
That's okay. I'm Sicilian. We're
Yeah.
cool. We're fine.
Well, actually,
cool.
we're not.
We're not cool.
Because Italians, because I'm Northern Italian.
Oh,
So, yeah, it's a whole thing. So,
well, I'm definitely gonna steal stuff
Yeah.
from your house before I
Yeah.
leave. So.
typical Sicilians, stealing stuff. You know what they say?
Sicilians.
Hard ass. I don't know.
I mean, I'm a mutt, really. We all are.
Amen.
Yeah, I am too. That's the beauty of being American.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways,
Have you guys done Ancestry.com?
No.
No, yeah, I feel weird about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
About that,
Just
like,
ending up on the grid. Is that the theory?
Kind of, yeah.
right.
At first, it was just a conspiracy theory about them like taking your information, using it against you, but now it's legit. They're actually selling your information to third-party people. So
Okay.
Yeah.
Who? I mean, like, who do they sell it to?
it's apparently insurance companies because you can learn a lot about your health by checking your.
I think I did hear that.
Yeah.
So they're using it and then without telling you, being like, "Right, he's going to get a higher deductible because we know he's prone to A, B, and Z."
Yeah, it's basically like it's legit. That's real. So
That's insane.
and I've also heard of it used in to solve criminal cases and stuff too. Not that I've been involved in any or anything that
That's
I'm worried
what I'm
about that,
concerned
but
about.
like,
At most, an accomplice. I've never done
right.
it.
I might have been there, but
I don't want to say I got skeletons in the closet, but I got some skeletons somewhere.
they told me to put on a ski mask and to drive fast. That's it. That's all I know.
They're not
and I
skeletons yet.
always leave DNA behind. Always.
Yes.
well, it's like it's the same thing with like Alexa and stuff too. Like
Yeah.
I don't like any of that stuff in my house or like to be connected to have all my stuff connected like that because
Yeah.
it's weird because it's
Yeah.
they've even used Alexa, I've heard, in like divorce cases because Alexa literally will record anything that you're saying and then you can get a printout of anything you've ever said to your Alexa
Shit.
or anything it's ever heard.
I'm getting fired.
There was a whole like fun period in the beginning of Alexa where everyone's like, what can I say? And get a funny response.
Right.
So
Yeah.
everyone...
It's kind of like when you look at your social media back in like 2009, you're like, I got to start deleting this. This is not going to make it.
My daughter one day just yelled a bunch of toddler gibberish, and Alexa was like, searching for movies with Bruce Valanche. I'm like, what? What did you hear?
The amount of times I've tested out the
That was my phone, sorry.
Alexa's self-destruct method to see if it works yet. Did they add that in? Alexa, self-destruct. That's not in there yet. Okay, fine. It still works.
I got like Star Trek Red Alert on there, so I say Red Alert, and then all the alarms go off. It's pretty,
Oh.
That's pretty funny.
Cause I fuck.
Himself.
You didn't have to go there. They know. They looked at me and they're like,
They saw you struggle to
they're
get
like,
past
yeah.
that.
We don't know if this is that kind of podcast.
So you guys got kids?
Yes, both of us.
No,
No.
I got a 2-year-old.
Yeah.
Yep.
And mine is 9 months. 10 months next week. So.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Damn,
so you guys
alright.
are fresh parents.
Yeah, still young.
Concerns of the future.
Yes.
Clearly concerned with the Alexa and the DNA. So you're big into conspiracy.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I will not let my daughter have anything that connects to the internet yet.
Love it.
Because there's a ton of toys like VTech and shit that
Yeah.
are
Oh,
kids'
yeah.
toys that are meant to be connected to the internet. But why? What good does that do?
Right.
Yeah.
Talking
There's
to
no
other
security on
toddlers.
any of that
Yeah.
shit. There's nothing. Like,
Right.
How else is she gonna get credit card offers in the mail?
She's getting things from like the... she's getting audited by the IRS this year again. Like another one.
I'm like, shit. How much money did you make last year?
It's off the papers.
I'll put on YouTube not for her per se, but I'll listen to music and stuff on there and leave that on in the background instead of leaving TV on or things like that. Just so
Yeah.
there's some noise and she has something to kind of keep her entertained a little bit.
Yeah.
But I get concerned with the idea that like maybe one of those could click over into one of those weird videos because that's how it happens. It's just
Yeah.
part of the
A
algorithm.
playlist and it, yeah.
Right. Or like sometimes we'll put on like if we put on kids songs and stuff like that, Baby Shark shit. I hate it, but it does come on. But when we put it on, like that's something that you have to worry about too, because in a Baby Shark playlist right in the middle of there could be something like you were talking about, just
Yeah.
some crazy
That's
ass
so
shit.
insane. I talked about this before. Just for me, adult man, I'll like put on something and be like, I can't fall asleep, so I'll put on something. Let's say a meditation or whatever on YouTube. I'll play it. I'll fall asleep, and the algorithm keeps going. I'll wake up 3 a.m. It's some in the depths of the Amazon rainforest shaman yelling into the microphone. Be like, this is not
Just a
even
bunch of
close.
flat Earth theories.
How did we get here?
I did something similar. I was out of town for work, and I fell asleep to the rainforest sounds,
Yeah.
water meditation stuff. And I had headphones on, and I woke up to like an ASMR video.
Yeah.
And it was like... And I woke up to that. I'm like, what the fuck? Where are we to? This is a hotel. I'm not comfortable.
I thought I was alone, but there's someone in my ear saying, wake up.
And it was like, if I remember correctly, it was like a brushing video. It's like, I have a strong boy. Such a good man. Oh my God, your listeners are so horny right now.
Unless they're watching the video. Now they're uncomfortable.
Meanwhile, someone would be going to sleep to something, and they wake up to the Pizza and Hummus podcast, and it's to the I'm a strong boy.
Your life isn't as terrible as you think.
Death is an illusion.
I'm gonna eat a banana.
I'm like, joke's on you. I'm already eating a banana. So, if any of our listeners start listening to you guys are going to be in for a wild ride.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Cheers. Salute.
Cheers. Just water.
Water, germs.
Partying hard at 11 in the morning.
That's how we do it. So your guys' podcast. Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
So give us the details.
Let's go talk radio for just a moment.
Yeah.
All right. So Moist Definitely was a podcast that we started, about a year and a half ago?
Yeah.
Just about now. And we kind of started it. We didn't have much of a direction. We'd kind of done podcasts before. Me and him did one about 5 or 6 years ago now. So we're not new to podcasting by any means,
Yeah.
but just this format and what we've been doing with this. So with Moist Definitely, we have a tendency to mostly have comedians on, but generally anybody willing to sit down and have a conversation with the three of us knuckleheads and kind of talk about whatever's on our mind that day. Or we generally ask the people the first time they're on what inspires them, and then we kind of have a conversation based on that. So
I like that. That's
Okay.
pretty sweet.
that way, because if you get people talking about what they're passionate about, the conversation flows fine from there.
Right.
So,
They kind of open up.
right.
They,
Yeah. And it gives you something to chat about. And so, like, and we also, like, we don't hold that to a specific thing. Like, if we ask you what inspires you, if you're a comedian, that can be about comedy. It can be what inspires you in your personal life. It can be what you do in your personal time. Whatever, whatever you do that it actually inspires you and makes you want to wake up day to day.
Yeah.
That opening question that we ask every guest, we don't know where that's gonna go.
Yeah.
And like, not to name drop, but we had Tony Vasek on, known him for a while, know his stand up. And then he went on and just went on this crazy story about his past life. Like, we had no idea it was going to go in that direction.
Yeah.
And that was one of my most favorite episodes because and then we're all comedians. We just riff off each other. And if someone comes in and doesn't have a lot to talk about, well, then it's just friends shooting the shit for an hour.
Yeah.
And making jokes. And,
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, that's one thing I try to keep in mind, like, before I do a podcast, because I have this temptation of, like, okay, this is where I want it to go. This is what I want it to do. But I always have to just tell myself, like, just let the conversation go. Just let it flow. See where it goes. Make it like an adventure. You don't know exactly where you're going to go. Don't make it a full plan of, like, we're going to talk about this, and then we're going to talk about this, and talk about this.
But there's something to be said about shows that do that too, right?
Oh,
There-
yeah.
I mean, it helps to have certain structure or to at least have topics queued up so that way, if the conversation is going a certain way or just drops off, you're not just like, okay, now what?
Right.
You have somewhere
Yeah.
to go with it. You have somewhere
It's
to talk.
nice as a
So-
back, depending on the format, either as the main structure of it, a backup, or some balance in between of loose versus.
We are
Right.
working on like some segmented things. We just invested in a board we were talking about earlier, so we're gonna have a little higher quality. And then right now the three of us are we're gonna run the show like once a month. So we're gonna bring topics in. It's either gonna work or it's not. And the things that work will move on. Things that don't, it's gonna be lost in obscurity.
Now, what do you mean by that? Run the show once a month.
So we're when it's just the three, Brian, me, and Matt, when
Yeah.
we're together, one of us is going to come in with an idea of what we're going to do that episode, and the other two maybe don't know.
Oh, I like
So,
that a lot.
yeah.
Yeah.
just so that way you kind of get to know what each of the hosts are interested in and what we're going to talk about and stuff, and kind of that way it also doesn't put everything on just them doing something or me doing everything. Like, it's a good balance for everybody to be like work wise, on top of the fact that like I said, the towelettes, as they call them, the moist towelettes, get to know the co-host with
Right. I love that.
And even though we all look the same, we're three different people.
that. Very, very different people.
Don't judge a book by its cover.
Sandwiched.
Got
Shit.
it.
Because Matt's like 1,000 years old, and he's
He
going
has
through-
kids our age.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Just about, yeah.
Yeah.
We're closer to age with his kids than we are to him.
That's funny.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
he has a lot more experience, and
He's definitely going to bring a
drinking.
different perspective.
yeah.
to the
He's
table.
seen some shit.
Right.
We just look like we've seen some shit. because we're younger than we look. But I know that my episodes are definitely going to be more like I don't know if you can tell, I'm a giant nerd. So
Right.
they're definitely going to be probably more oriented towards them, where I know my friend here is also a bit nerdy, but maybe in some like different avenues. We don't share the same love for all of the things. And music is a big one. Like he's like metal and rap and like now bluegrass for some reason.
That's my favorite.
The obvious transition.
And then Matt's going through a midlife crisis, and he's just straight hip hop. So,
Okay.
so I think that's what I'll bring. And then and the cool thing is, like, I have no idea what the other two are gonna do.
Yeah.
And that's gonna be really exciting because I like being a little more spontaneous, coming up with stuff off the top of my head. So that'll be fun.
Now, have you guys known each other for a while?
It's been a
Yeah.
while. 8 years, maybe more.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
And I've known Matt for, I think, just about the same now, about 5 or 6 years. Yeah.
Was Matt specifically through stand-up that you met him?
No. So Matt, I met both of these guys. So I met him through a job that we used to work, and then I met Matt at a job that we used to work too. Different times. I actually left the job that I worked with him to go and met Matt at the other job. And then he moved to Chicago for a while and was gone. And that's about the time that I stopped doing the other podcast that we used to do. And then we started doing rooms like about a year and a half ago. We started doing the stand-up stuff. Or I started doing the stand-up stuff here because I had, for those of you that know, I run Canton Brew Works and the Rusted Crow right now, or we do as a team. But I started CBW because the venue asked me to do an open mic there one time.
Wow.
So I was like, all right, I'll give it a shot and see what it's like. But I'd been doing stand-up a few times for a couple months before that, so I kind of had like a feel for it and knew what I would be doing.
Mm-hmm.
So we started the shows there, started doing that, and now I lost track of where I was going with this.
Weed.
Yeah,
How you
it's
met-
awesome.
how
I
you
met
met-
Matt and them. So I started doing the stand-up stuff, and I kept bugging Matt to come out because he's a funny guy, and like he's always, like conversationally he's funny.
Yeah.
And I knew that it was something he was interested in doing. I was like, dude, I run open mics. Just come out and hang out, see what it's like. If you want to go up, you can go up.
Yeah.
And so he did a few times, and he's like, all right, I got some stuff I wrote out I want to try. He came out, he started doing stand-up, and he was like, all right, I want to be part of this. And so
Wow.
he started really like dedicating his time and energy to it. And then he came back from Chicago, and he's been doing awesome and helping out and getting everything up and running and great to where we're at right now.
Yeah.
Shucks, stop it.
And so
It is funny. Matt is definitely, he seems this person who gets a laugh initially, just to him.
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
as a
Before-
person.
As a person.
Yeah.
person.
I feel like his, and this is speaking about someone who's not even here for him.
We always
That's
do
okay.
this.
Yeah.
It pisses me off.
So if he's listening, I'm sorry, unless this is absolutely true, which it probably is he probably, his biggest thing with stand-up is probably as long as it being as natural as possible, because he seems like he's just a
Yeah.
naturally funny person.
You know, you always say, like, oh, that person is larger than life. That
Yeah.
literally is Matt.
Yeah.
Matt goes in a room and he demands your attention even though you don't want to give it to him.
right.
That's the person he is.
Yeah.
And people respond to that.
Yeah.
So, like, he's one of those people that can go and do his set and he's not really feeling it that day, or, you know, he had some personal stuff going on and he wasn't feeling it and the crowd didn't react.
Yeah.
But then he goes and does his set where the crowd is hot and he's feeling good. They feed off of that. And then he just beats them into laughing.
Yeah.
And that works. That's his thing. That is him.
He's mood driven.
He's
Yeah.
what you see is what you get
Yeah.
with Matt Hamilton. That's who he is.
So for your guys' show, is it called Moist Definitely, or is it what's for the Canton Brew Works? What show is
We just call him Comedy Night at Canton Brew.
just Comedy
Yeah,
Night
yeah.
Canton Brew Works? Okay.
We try to run everything through like the Moist Definitely Facebook page as far as like the events and stuff.
Okay.
And we're trying. I had at one point 5 different Facebook pages, and we condensed them down to 2 now.
Nice.
So, but everything we're trying to do is mainly through the Moist Definitely page. So that way it'll be like Moist Definitely presents Comedy Night at CBW or Comedy Night at RCD, which is the Rusted Crow Distillery, the other one we run.
Okay. Nice.
I think the three of us too, as much as we feed off of the audience, we feed off of each other too.
Yeah.
So, and then the kind of cool thing is we get to host each other. So if,
Yeah.
if I'm hosting the show, I'm gonna bring Matt up in a funny way,
Mm-hmm.
and then if he's hosting, he does the same thing. Or last show we did at Canton Brew Works, we had Elena Gonzalez host the show for us. Matt went up before me, and Matt put like a nugget in his set that I was able to feed off of when I went up there. It was like a callback from his set.
Yeah.
And like we just
Nice.
been doing it with each other for so long that it kind of happens naturally. And so if one of us is off or something's happening, that might throw the rest of us off, which not great, but
Yeah.
it's also cool when it works.
But
And
yeah, on the positive side of things, for people who may not know you guys personally, they just come to the show. You are almost validating, hey, this next guy, he's a friend. I trust him, because you're either making fun of him, you announce him in a good way. The audience, one more thing to let the audience let their guard down.
to our detriment too, because now if any one of us goes out, it's like, where's Bryan and Matt? Like we're not allowed to do anything without at least one other guy there,
Right.
which is just super unfortunate.
Yeah.
But
So you guys are nerds?
yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you guys ever have, this is random, do you guys ever have like where if you're meeting someone new, you like put in little feelers to see how nerdy they are before you reveal
Yeah.
what you are?
Because sometimes nerds can range from, a girl at Target who's wearing a Star Wars T-shirt that's like, I love Star Wars. My favorite's Obi-Wan. And then you have that, and then
you bleed from the nose.
and you bleed from nose, and then you have those nerds that are just like in a basement dungeon somewhere that just know every hentai fetish. And just everything in
Who
between.
ninja ran through high school?
First of all, I don't like that you're just including everyone. Like, someone with the waifu pillow, they're definitely the same as someone who likes Pokemon.
That's what I'm saying. It's like a spectrum. It's a whole.
So
Self-proclaimed.
I don't do that anymore because I don't have time for it. Like,
You
I
don't do
was
the
gonna
waifu
say,
pillows.
Meeting new people, or
wow, that's accurate. No, putting the feelers out. I am who I am,
Yeah.
and they are who they are, and just from natural conversation, you're going to learn. And I don't care what you're into. I can get along with anyone.
right,
I definitely used to do that, though, because I was in the nerd closet when I was in high school.
right,
Yeah.
right,
Because
right.
even at that time, it wasn't okay to be a nerd.
Yeah.
So I was like, like, well, yeah, I'm in marching band, but I'm a drummer, so I'm cool. I'm definitely not a nerd.
Oh yeah. Which drums?
Snare and quads because I was the best. And so I kind of hit it. So then when I was in college, I'm like, oh, you can actually be a little more who you are. I would do that. Put the feelers out. I was like, well, yeah, I guess I guess Star Wars is cool, and I'm a huge Star Wars fan, Star Trek fan, Lord of the Rings. Yeah. And then like now it's just like no, well, my bi-monthly D&D group, I can't go out on Saturday or whatever, you know.
So last night, me, my brothers, my cousins, we all got together and we played Dungeons and Dragons for the first time. Boy, howdy, was that a riot.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It's incredible. Why? It's been around, I know, since forever, but we finally did it because I played it once with some friends, and it was okay.
Run down your character. What do you play?
So I am a Aarakocra druid.
Nice.
Yeah, I wanted to get that wisdom
I'm
bonus.
I'm a wood elf druid myself.
There you go. Yeah.
You guys know Dave.
I use circle. I just became circle of the moon.
My man.
Circle of the Moon.
Circle of the Moon. It gives you a bonus action of transforming, so you don't got to use like a spell slot for it. So
Yes.
Also, if you have Circle of the Moon, if you are in animal form and you are injured and to a point where it kill you, you can use a bonus action to transform back into your regular player with like some health.
Yeah,
So
so
it's
you get
pretty,
some of your health
pretty
back.
dope. So
It's pretty great.
Yeah.
I found this guide on Reddit that showed like all the animals that you can be with their CR and all that stuff. You can be a dinosaur, ladies and gentlemen. I was like, this is what I was meant to be.
I just came across a giant spider that has like moves where you can like crawl on ceilings and do distance stuff. And I'm not high enough level to do that yet, but I've seen it, so I can do it in the future, and I'm just so ready for that.
This is my favorite podcast.
Oddly enough, I'm also not high enough yet to have this conversation.
But
My man.
This always happens when we do someone else's podcast.
But yeah. So that was one thing I learned. It was like if you're with the right group of people, and you can just have a riot. I mean, my cousin, he was a halfling rogue, and he was just stealing shit.
Yeah.
He was going to taverns and just getting drunk and just causing all sorts of mischief. And we're like, basically he was just Rocket Raccoon from Guardians of the Galaxy, just messing everything up. But we all love him. Like
Where'd you get that prosthetic leg?
See, I used to play like Pathfinder and the Dragon Age RPG.
Yeah.
And the groups that I was in then, they were like super serious, and it was fun for what it was, but like now I'm in a group with like a bunch of friends, and it's mayhem.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, and for someone who loves comedy, who's interested in improv, like doing that is a lot of fun.
That's actually a really good point. Because that was something that I was starting to get kind of more excited about with the game. Because, when you see on television that everyone's like, you're in a dark cellar and you're a dwarf cleric and like all this stuff. But really,
Pizza pockets are out.
But really though,
Mom, get out of here.
Yeah. But really though, you can. I mean, it's in terms of if you're looking at it from a comedian perspective, it's a ton of improv.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do? What actions? How do you talk to people? How do you coordinate with the non-playable characters? I mean, you can do stuff that's ridiculous. And I was like, oh, it's more of a creative thing. It's not just.
It's
like
art.
We have to be a serious. I'm a serious mage. We started off that way. Our characters were these serious, just edge, characters. And then next thing you know, my cousin's like, okay, I hide under the monster and I cut him in front of and right in his taint, and I just cut him in half, and everyone's like, this is amazing.
So in our group,
you can't cut people's taints in Monopoly. That's all I'm saying.
Well, not with that attitude. in our group, our DM rewards us for searching anuses. There will always be something up there.
A cavity search reward.
Yep. There will always be
A badge in the Boy Scouts.
Our DM, she also I made her mad one time because she created this scenario. We walked into a room and there was a table just full of goblins or bugbears or whoever it was, and we weren't in any position to fight them. So I said, hey, we're from Dunder Mifflin Scranton. We're here to see David Wallace on an important mission. And she's like, I guess you're going to have to roll a persuasion, but it's going to have to be pretty high. And I rolled a nat 20.
Nice.
So she had to so that's canon in our world that we created.
Yeah.
But like, she got a little mad because she had there was going to be a big battle here that she worked on beforehand. And then she just had to okay, you guys are free to go, Dunder Mifflin Scranton.
Now, for those listening on the podcast, DM means Dungeon Master. And when you have to make a choice, you roll a dice from 1 to 20, and 20 means it's for sure going to happen, and 1 means it likely won't happen.
And if you roll a nat 1, like a crit fail 1, then you're supposed to be punished for that one. But if it's a nat 20, something awesome has to happen, which I would argue, just in this world that we created, that Dunder Mifflin Scranton exists.
That's the reward.
That's the reward in itself.
Yes.
So,
and that's the other thing too. If you get a natural 1, it'll hilarity can ensue. You go to swing your axe, you completely miss, and you kill a kid, and now you got to go to court.
You do, that thing in Wii Bowling where you let go too early.
You actually throw the axe, you break your nice television that your mom paid good money for.
I feel like
Can't
I've been
get
rolling.
you nothing nice.
I feel like I've been rolling nat 1s my whole life.
you're the human embodiment of a nat 1.
And most people too in the shows, you can create a character and you do all these different voices. Me, it's my family. It's just a bunch of talents going, yeah, then I cut it over here, and then I shoot this guy with a bow. 20, baby. Oh! What are you going to do?
Bada bones coming from
It's like Matt's here.
All right, what's up, ball bags? It never isn't funny, and it makes me mad that it's never not funny.
So kind of going back to the comedy show a little bit. So now, is this a monthly show? Is it a weekly show? What's kind of the situation with it?
We got monthly showcases right now at both venues. So we got one monthly show at CBW and one at the Rusted Crow.
Okay. Oh, so you guys have 2 shows that you're juggling around.
Yep.
Oh, that's fun.
It's lots of fun.
That's
Where is Rusted Crow?
Rusted Crow's in Dearborn Heights.
Yep.
It's on Telegraph.
And CBW Canton Brew Works in Canton.
Yep. On Lily.
Very nice.
If you guys are looking up the addresses.
They're
CBW. No, I know. CBW was our initial show, and we started with an open mic that was bi-weekly. Well, actually, I did one, and then I had to wait a month because I had ACL surgery. And when I went back and we started doing them bi-weekly after that, it got to weekly, and then eventually we started doing showcases too. Just too much comedy at one spot.
Yeah.
So we broke it up a little bit, and we'd been doing showcases just there and at Rusted Crow since then. And that was towards the end of last year we started doing that.
Okay,
and
nice.
that was seems to help out our attendance and the crowds and
Keeping
stuff.
it consistent.
That's been the secret sauce. The crowds have been amazing at both
absolutely.
places.
So now, with the crowds, do you notice if there's a difference in crowds in terms of kind of what things that they kind of find humorous, anything like that?
I found with the Crow, there's a lot more people that are just coming there to see us that we don't know.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
And
nice.
that's been really cool. The Crow's been promoting it quite a bit on their own personal page and word of mouth, and that's been a lot of fun. I feel like CBW is a little more happenstance. People showed up to see comedy, but those crowds have been awesome as well.
Yeah.
CBW's had a lot that come out because we've got a consistent group that comes out for comedy almost every month.
That's true,
So
and that's
there's-
really cool too.
Yeah.
We see the same people, and that's a lot of fun as
That
well.
is nice to see. Oh, it's working at least for.
Yeah.
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 There's actually a group of people that are make it a point to come out to see those shows.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
That's awesome. Yeah, because we had this debate because our venue was saying, hey, if you want, you can make your show bi-weekly. And we thought, well, if it's bi-weekly, I don't know if we're going to get those regulars in every other week in the same location. Whereas
And
if it's
also
once
the
a month,
quality.
if it's once a month, they can do a little hype. Oh, yeah, this is my thing I do once a month on a Friday. I go out and I go to this show.
Yeah, it was a concern of it, and we haven't brought it off the table, but for right now, we were just right now we don't want to dilute it or make it. We want to put the effort into each show, and the crowds have been great for that. And we're scared that you go bi-weekly, then you're just it's again. I was just
Right.
And we don't want to have that expression of oh, I'll just go to the next one. We
Yeah.
want each month
Right.
to feel oh no, we have these great comedians on. We're doing this thing because sometimes we do showcases. We mainly do showcases, but other times we'll do specialty shows just to kind of spice it up and just kind of be no, you don't want to miss this show. This show's gonna be great.
I think the open mic was maybe drawing people away from the big shows on the weekend, which we would prefer people to go. I mean, we know you need open mics and that's where you do your practice, but it's also kind of like we're running a business a little bit, and we want them to go to those more produced shows.
Yeah.
And I think that's why we had to make a couple decisions too. We stopped doing the interruption show because it was mostly popular with comedians and not necessarily the crowd.
Yeah.
Even though we really loved doing it and people enjoyed going to it.
That was a fun show, but yeah, it definitely seems like a comedian-driven.
Yeah.
I want to go there, interrupt, and it's fun for us because we're all
Right.
comedians.
Yeah, that's something that we even try to juggle around with Pizza Numbers Presents is like, how do we make this a show where the comedians really like it, but also the audience likes it? And it can sometimes be two different things. There's certain things that maybe comedians really like to do, but the audience might not care. And there's stuff that audience love comedians to do, and they don't. So it's really finding that balance.
And it can take a while, like, doing that show so many times to kind of figure out how that works.
Yeah.
And you can't necessarily do that at an establishment where they need to make money. They need asses and seats to sell beer or liquor.
Yeah.
Which I feel like if we had, more time to put in the interruption show, we can create it into something bigger. But we didn't want to take away from the bread and butter, which was the showcase shows where we can show off, the best, local comedians. And that's important.
Yeah.
Nice.
I've been keeping an eye on what you guys have been doing and stuff, and I think it's really interesting that I always find it cool when people who do shows and stuff do different things.
Yeah.
Because stand-up shows are cool and they're fun and stuff, but at the same time, it's always like, as a stand-up, it works different muscles, and it's cooler to have like a theme to a show. Like I know you guys did like a late night show and things like that.
Yeah.
Like it's just cool to have that kind of interaction or something available there for you to potentially be on. That's different than just a regular stand-up show.
Yeah, kind of throwing it in there. Well, thank you for keeping an eye.
You're
That's
welcome.
Cool. Yeah. Well, yeah. That's,
I haven't been paying attention.
not thank you.
One, thank you. No, thank you.
We have a meeting every morning. He's like, this is what these guys are doing. I'm like, cool. We'll get on their podcast then.
Well,
Steal all their ideas. We were doing that a little bit, like with the open mics before we stopped doing them. Like we did one show at the Crow where it was just comedians there, and we did each other's sets. And it was like it was so fun, but there is zero way it would have worked with an audience.
Oh,
Yeah.
It only would have worked with the comedians.
Yeah, and it's definitely the most inside of jokes, like, because I mean, obviously the jokes still work, but if I'm doing Richie's bit, it's funny because everyone knows this is Richie's bit. Whereas if it's someone in the audience, they're like, "What's going on?"
like
That would be fun.
So like
That'd be
if
funny.
any one of us like I think I did a couple of Andrew Yang's jokes.
Yeah.
It's like, well, that guy probably shouldn't be selling those jokes. It's only funny to us.
about your family,
Yeah.
your mother-in-law.
Yeah, about my that was super. So we did a few of the experimental shows, and now that it's just the showcases, we want to focus on. But I think that's at least what I'm hoping that we're going to be doing is we're going to try to bring some of those ideas into the cast, so we can still flex that creative muscle. And,
Yeah.
No, I
he
quit.
says no.
No.
I quit.
No, I quit.
Now,
Finally, can I have the mixer?
No.
when you guys did each other's jokes, was it like you said, "Hey, okay, you're doing my jokes. Here I wrote it out. Here it
It's mostly off of memory.
Yeah, that's what we tried to do.
Okay.
And I think that's a big reason why it was more popular with the comics, because there were a few people sitting at the bar who were kind of like, what the fuck's going on over there?
And then I just did all of his suicide jokes. And,
They went over
was
well.
concerned.
Just about as well as when I do them. So
You killed.
they looked at me. They're like, that guy needs some help.
But when Brian does, everyone's like, "Well, yeah,
yeah, that makes
I
sense.
wanted to, yeah."
Do it, Dad. It'd be amazing. That's how you met him the first time.
And that's how I met Dad.
It's more real than you think it is, bud.
Oh my god, that's funny.
It's like, now
So-
he's gotta
so
pay
one
back
thing that-
child support. Or anything.
So I think the thing that I'm really attracted to this idea is because in our group chats, for me, Rich and Jarrett, we're always kind of making fun of each other's sets.
Like
We're
that's how they're like, we'll talk about not a comedic topic.
Yeah.
And like, how do I get out? We're giving each other advice, whatever. And then the advice is always ends up being like using a line from one of our bits as like a horrible piece of advice.
So one of Richie's first bits that he ever did was about wet dreams.
First thing I ever did at the comedy cast.
First thing everything he did at the Comedy Cast was about wet dreams. So
Well, it's
whenever-
fresh in his mind. It just happened.
Right.
It just happened.
So that just happened to me the other night.
Yeah, you won't believe this.
Did you know
Airline-
it gets bigger?
Yeah.
He watched that Leaving Neverland special. He's like, oh shit.
Oh no.
I did not see that yet. Everyone says you got to see it.
It's not good.
It's not.
just not good.
Just watch Game of Thrones. It's called a day.
Just ruins everything. But anyways, yeah. So like whenever it comes to Richie trying to figure out like, oh, should I do this show or whatever, we're just always like, just do an hour special on just wet dreams. Or like whatever we can, like, just talk for a full hour. We'll send it to Netflix. They approve most things, right?
Yeah, it's good. You're on.
So he's like, so another thing about a wet dream is
So another reason why we all agree what we're talking about.
none of us can ever be that funny, and which pisses me off.
Yeah.
He just pulls out a piece of paper and it just says "wet dreams" 50 million times.
Then he slowly folds it back up.
Another punchline.
I don't think we make fun of each other's sets. We just make fun of each other. That's what we do in a group. We constantly just rib on each other. But we do run bits by each other, and that's really cool too. We're like, hey, I have this new tag. Tell me if it works or not. But when we do have to tell each other about something about their set that may not be working, it's always like it's the one aspect of our life where we're kind of like walking on eggshell a little bit.
Yeah,
Like,
it's so personal.
like they were like, and literally, if one of them was just like, "Hey, that's a little too wordy, maybe tighten it up," I would have been like, "Okay, cool." But it's like, yeah, mate, I mean, it was funny, but like, and then like for him, I'm like, hey, man, I'm not telling you, but like maybe let the suicide jokes put him to rest for like a set or two.
Yeah.
You know, but like any other time, we're like, you fat piece of shit.
I hate your kids. Yeah, it's like, yeah, but this said, whoa, wait a minute.
No, 100%.
Exactly what
Yeah.
it's like.
Like if anyone like looked into like our group chat that we have with, they're like, these guys hate each other.
Yeah.
But then if it has anything to do with our craft, we're like, no, man, that was great.
You sandwich in compliments.
Yeah.
Listen, I love you. I respect you. If you could just switch out this word. But listen, you are a hero to us.
You dropped a hard C in front of my grandma 3 times during that set, which actually
Only
happened
Once.
twice.
Twice. It was twice.
Twice.
But it's just so funny that happens.
That's
there.
so
But
true.
it also helps us a lot as comedians too. That we do take the jokes seriously.
Yeah.
And like it could be the smallest of thing that I'll do differently, and they'll pick up on it. And same thing, like you're like, oh, I really liked when you did this instead of that. And that helps a lot with comedy because it's so nuanced, and you guys know.
Yeah.
Yeah, my thing is that I'm very, Richie can confirm with this, I'm very secretive when it comes to my bits. I want to see it on stage first, and then they can tell me, hey, this worked, this didn't work. I don't want to necessarily tell my joke in text or tell it to them without a stage, without that context, because I don't want it to get edited or manipulated, because I don't know if it's even how the audience is going to respond to it.
We do that.
Yeah.
We do that too. Like my newest joke, I wanted to practice it before our last special weekend show, and I didn't have a chance to. So I was gonna tell them both about it. Like, you know what? No, I'm just gonna do it and just give me your honest opinion. And it worked really well, and I liked that I did that. Usually it's going to be like maybe tags, or like I'm going to present something differently that they already know the joke.
Right,
So,
and adding a different part of it. Oh, I liked when you ended it with blank instead.
yeah, because then getting their feedback on it's like it's still a Bryan joke that I don't want them to
Influence the premise.
Exactly.
You want them to
Yeah.
hit the tags.
Yep.
I do like though a certain amount. I'm less secretive, but like I'm thinking about writing a joke about this, but there are certain points where I do just want to tell it on stage, because it's a different kind of rewarding when it makes them laugh. When I'm like doing it, I'm like, oh, that made them laugh. That's funnier to me.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. And if you guys, you guys know him, but like Matt has a very distinctive laugh.
Yeah.
So like when I hear him laugh from the back of the
Joke
room,
works.
I know for sure like that was funny. That's okay. I
Yeah,
don't care if
worked out.
anybody else laughs.
Yeah.
Like,
it's a laugh, and it's always like, get him.
yeah.
That's what. I had a great set last time. I had 2.5 get-ems.
Get.
Faint?
But that was him telling you to get off the stage.
Get off.
He's from Taylor. Get.
Go on. Get.
Gone. Yeah. No, and that's it's cool that we have that. That's a tool
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's just part of like that's what, when I brought Matt in, I was telling him like what I've been trying to do with the open mic and stuff is I always wanted it to be like a hangout. Like I just wanted people to come and just try out material, do whatever you want, like just be here and hang out. Like it's a cool thing, and that's like what we eventually built with the open mic and stuff. And I feel like that's a lot of what like we feel now is like almost like community with a lot of the comics. It definitely has that feeling.
It seriously does.
A lot of it's just been over the last like 2 or 3 years. We were talking with Diego Atanasio on one of our last episodes about that, is he said like over like specifically the last year and a half, there's been like a lot of people coming together and doing this kind of stuff, like podcasts or putting shows on. Like there's us and there's you guys and there's 313 and honorary mentions. There's so many different comedy shows in the Michigan scene now. It's crazy.
It's great.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It was amazing. Cause I used to do stand up. When I first started, I was doing it in college, and I was at Grand Valley. So I was on the west side of the state. Well, when I came back here to the east side of the state, and we were trying to get Richie in to do stand up comedy and all that type of stuff, I was like, can you do stand up comedy around here? I didn't know. And now it's just a flood. I mean, you can do a show any day of the week. Maybe not get on every show, but you know what I'm saying? There's a comedy show every day of the week, and it's all within this side of the mitten.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is really awesome.
And more so for us downriver, because we can go hit up the Toledo shows too, and those are amazing.
Yeah.
There's a lot of mics. It's in
the Ohio area. There's a really cool scene out there too. If you guys haven't been
they have
out
the
there,
Funny Bone Toledo, right?
There's a Funny Bone, but we do like a Home Slice comedy night.
Home Slice,
is awesome.
Yeah.
And what else?
Beer Stube.
Beer Stube. Yep.
How far away is that from downriver?
From where we are, it's about a 45.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not far.
How far is it to drive from here?
About 45
minutes.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like right in the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, I don't know about you guys, but when I have family members, they talk and they see my posts about stand-up comedy, they're like, so you're a comedian, and you like, is this like your full-time job, or like what are you trying to make, like what are you trying to do? And I pretty much just tell them like, my stand-up comedy is it's like, this is me and my buddies' version of a beer league. Like
I like that a lot.
You know what I'm saying?
Cool.
Like it's what, you know, think of a typical beer league. You know, we're out hanging out, we're doing our thing, but we also take it like way too seriously. You know, like I'm like, that's it. Like me, Richie, Jared, all of our friends, you know, we all hang out, we do stand up, we get some drinks, hang out, and then we just overanalyze our material. And I go, that's pretty much what it is. Like, it's like a beer. It's like, this is my beer league because I can't play sports. And everyone's like, oh, okay. so it's just keeping it fun, keeping it light.
It's the only
and just
thing
hanging out with comedians.
It's the only thing I'm decent at, and like barely. Like, I can't even bowl, so it's. Like,
But it's such a niche thing that it makes up. Like being fairly good is really adds as opposed to. I lost my train of thought. But no, it definitely is a niche thing. It's like you can be subpar at softball.
This is what we do if we weren't on stage or if we weren't recording a podcast. We still just get together and shit at each other and make jokes.
Exactly. And these shows and just doing stand up, it's definitely a great excuse to like go out. It's like, okay, you can get inside, or it's just an excuse of like, well, I got a show. I got to go out and hang out with my buddies and goof off for, for 3 hours. I got to go. It's on the calendar.
I think honestly, for a lot of people, stuff like this is almost better for your mental health than therapy.
Yeah,
oh, absolutely. I think so.
Because like, there's nothing more that I love. Like, I love being at home with my family, my daughter, my wife. But there's like the second best thing to me is like knowing that I'm going to be going out tonight and performing stand up and hanging out with these guys or like whoever else is going to be there and like just talking shit and like making people laugh, hopefully, or if not, then we talk about why we didn't make them laugh.
Right.
Like,
the
there's
level
just so
of
much
validation
shit.
you get, and if you didn't get it, the level of growth you get.
Yeah,
from just sitting there alone in silence.
Ugh.
I'm learning a lot right now.
Just about everyone that we come in contact with doing comedy is fucking awesome.
Yeah,
right.
They're so cool. It's a lot of fun to hang out.
And the ones that aren't, they tend not to do stand up for too long.
That's exactly what
they just kind of dip their toes in it. It really wasn't for them, or they just got way too.
I put my foot in. Everyone yelled at me. I got out of the pool.
Yeah.
Because it kind of self-regulates a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, it's
I've
not
heard
like
that.
people are like, no one's getting blacklisted, but like if you come in and you're like spewing hate, most, you're not going to get invited back to that show.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's the way it should be. Or people like they go and they see other comedians and the way they do it, they're like, oh, I should probably, take out my joke about. Never mind, I'm not going to. There's this guy.
Yeah.
There's this guy.
There's this guy.
There's this guy
But no,
or girl. We don't know.
No, it's a guy.
Oh,
all right. You got 50% of the population now. People are gonna figure it out.
It's definitely that of just like it's. No one wants to. it's self-regulates in form. Nobody wants to go back up there and do that poorly again. So it's not like you're going to keep doing that and keep doing something the audience clearly didn't enjoy, if not was uncomfortable.
I hear you, but this particular person
is relentless.
Yeah, it's like it's gonna work one day.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Stuff like
Off
there's
camera.
definitely, but I think that's part of like being a comedian, being part of the community though, is because I feel like if there was ever a bit that I, like you were saying, the suicide stuff, because I came to you about that too. I was like, I just feel like
Well,
somebody
he came to me about his suicide.
Yeah, I was like, I'm writing this note out, and I think these jokes haven't been working.
And I said I'm really busy.
No, but like I came to you about that. Like I feel like you're very honest about those bits. Like if I had something in my set that was uncomfortable or was bad or racist or sexist or anything like that, you'd be like, maybe steer away from that a little bit, to where like somebody just coming into the scene doesn't have all that support, or maybe newer to that and doesn't necessarily get that input because they're trying out that stuff unregulated, I guess.
Yeah.
Like
It's
and-
also weird with that. Like, I agree that the support is not everyone has, and it's definitely something is like a blessing. But there's got to be a form of it where even if you didn't have anybody, you gotta just, how much self-awareness do you need? Like, you have to have a certain amount of it
Definitely.
to say,
I hear you, but this particular person. No, I think that's why a lot of people record their sets.
Yeah.
I honestly do. I think that's what it is, because when you're up there, you don't get a good gauge of what the audience is feeling.
yeah.
But you may be able to get that a little bit when they record their
When
set.
you listen to it again and be like, oh.
And I even started noticing some of my body language when I record. Like I was always playing with the microphone cable. So then after I started seeing that video, I started saying, okay, I got to stop doing that. So I would kind of practice and rehearse without constantly just moving the cable or just, finicking around. But yeah, I definitely think that I always recommend everyone to do stand up, just because, even just to kind of get an idea of like, oh, this is what it's kind of like. And I always say, you might not get a bunch of laughs, but if you get that first laugh, you're addicted after that. You're like, oh, this is great. I'm going to do this forever. And I know for me, I grew up playing instruments. I was in bands and stuff. So the fact that I could still go on stage now and I don't have to worry about like Greg and if his bass is going to come and like there's 50 other people. It's just like, I'm going to go up there with a microphone. I perform. I get my stage fix. It's great.
That's definitely that's something that draws me to stand up too. Is it's something that I'm reliant on.
Yes.
Like it's not something I have to worry about other people doing anything for. It's like if I go up there and I keep telling the same shitty jokes and they're not getting laughs and I'm not writing, then it's my fault.
It's
not
all on you without
It's
a
not
doubt.
anybody else.
I still blame my drummer.
But I thought you were the drummer.
I was the bassist in my band.
Ah,
We'll
Greg.
talk. I was Greg. They say it was a ska band. On the record, not a ska band.
We didn't have any horns. We didn't have any
Single
trumpets.
No, but that is it. Like, growing up, I was always like, I don't like team sports. I didn't like team sports. I mean, I like being competitive. I like being active. But, like, the second someone's like, you're late, I'm like, I don't want to be here anymore. Like, someone went like this, and that's it for me. Like, that's it. That's all it takes.
You're ruining it for the team. Well, I'm not in this team anymore.
One time, I was 7th grade. I tried out for football. I was like, I'm going to make football. I practiced running a mile all summer. And so we came out tryouts, and he's going over the list day one, and he's stumbling with this Italian kid's name, and he keeps saying the last name over, and now he's making a joke. He's like, Shilin, and he's being funny. He nudges the other coaches, and he's like, and so they're messing up the name, and I shout out, 12-year-old Richie, 4'0". I go, all together now. And then he come up to me, and he's like, think this is funny? He literally did the Joe Pesci, do I look like a clown to you?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, football's not for me at all. I thought you would laugh.
I too have a problem with authority. Which is
I did just describe that.
So I'm assuming your character is chaotic neutral.
100%.
Oh my
100%. Yeah. He also makes references that don't exist in that realm, like The Office.
And everyone's like, what the hell are you talking about?
Do you guys have any conspiracies you want to talk about?
This guy does.
You definitely look the part.
That's one of my specialties.
It's on my resume. Willing to talk about blank.
He's like, comedy, conspiracy theories, raising a family. In that order.
I don't have specific ones that I like to talk about, but I'm
Do you
always
have
willing
any
to entertain
favorites?
the
Do you have any
idea.
favorites? Any ones that you
You don't have to
enjoy?
believe
That
them,
Yeah, you don't
Finland
talk.
doesn't exist.
What is the base of this?
You haven't heard this one?
No.
No.
Oh, wow.
So Finland, per this conspiracy theory, doesn't exist.
Yeah, no.
Buckle
So
up, guys.
Finland
Here we go.
is just made up by China and Russia, so that way they can keep all of the great fishing that's between the two land masses to themselves by saying that Finland is a landmass that you go to, because when you fly to Finland, it's the same amount of time that it takes you to get to, I don't remember, I think it's someplace in Sweden
Yeah.
that looks and would be actively like how you described Finland.
Similar to Finland.
So people that have actually been to Finland have actually only been to Sweden, because
Okay.
Finland doesn't actually exist.
What if when
Can you guys tell he smokes weed?
Okay, so hear me out. Finland don't exist.
Wait, what's that white powder on your nose?
Don't worry about that.
Guys.
It's called Switzerland. It's great. What if anytime someone was like, turns out they're like playing footage of any celebrity saying they were shooting in Finland, all of the time just real subtle they went like this. They just like they're all in on it. Like Bruce Willis, yeah, we had a great shot where it was over in Finland. Great fishing. I don't understand. Wait, so how does the fishing? I think I might have missed that. How does the Finland and the fishing connect?
Yeah.
So like,
Gotta get that fish, bro.
Yeah,
Right.
Finland
Obviously.
is the landmass that's between the two. It's between China and something else. As far as I can't remember the exact theory. 'Cause
No,
I
we don't
my-
have a map here, so we
No,
can't
yeah,
check to see
I'm
if
not
that's
good with
true.
geography.
Jamie,
Anyway,
pull
this
it
is
up.
near Georgia, right? Right next to Georgia. No, but it's so Finland is a landmass that's between the two countries that have kept all of the fishing to themselves.
Okay.
So then they have all the control over the fish markets, and they're able. That's how they bring in so much money through the fish markets.
So then, okay, so
Richie is in.
I already fully believe it.
so give me okay. So you got
This is the reaction I expected.
yes. Well,
Remember, you asked me.
Yeah.
no, I asked you, and I'm grateful. No.
Wait till you hear my conspiracy theory.
I'm just trying to figure out, like, okay, so then now they got to set up shop. They got to pretend that Finland does exist. They got to have a flag. They got to have Finlandians or Finland, the people. I don't know if people live
Finnish.
there. The Finnish.
We
Is
need
that it?
that
Is
song
it
from
the Finnish?
Animaniacs where they go over all the countries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They went like Finland.
So
and the
so they got to set up
What if
shop.
he
So now
did?
is Finland known for having like a great import of fish or export of fish or?
No, not them at all. That's what it is. Is that it's the other two countries that they're known for their fish exports.
Okay.
So that's what. So Finland is just like a happenstance. Like it's a lie they made up and they propagated. They're like, oh, there's this landmass here, but
So
there's
there is no land.
There's
It's
no land.
just water.
It's just water between the two. And so Finland, like I said, Finland's just this big lie that they drew on the map, so that way nobody goes over there. And then
there's
when
not
you
water there.
right, and then when
Per
you
the
like,
map.
yeah, and then when you're flying and stuff, or you fly to that, they just fly you to Switzerland instead.
And then tell you you're
in Finland. And I mean, after being on a plane for like 26 hours, I think I'd believe whatever the
Whatever.
fuck they told me when
Yeah.
I got off too.
Yeah.
You come
And
out, it's just like you're
It's
in
like
America
3
still
days
doing it.
later, and it's like the next, it's like 6 in the morning. You left at 9 o'clock at night.
I was watching. I'm sorry.
Well, no, I was.
No, let the man process.
yes.
Well, because I'm also as I'm processing, I'm realizing how I'm thinking about how dumb I am because I thought I go, well, there's no one in Finland that looks like they're from China or Russia. So I'm like, how did they do it? It's like, oh no, they just Sweden, and there's like, you just say you're from Finland.
yeah, exactly.
So I was watching the Truman Show last night,
Oh, good.
and so I don't know if you remember the plot of the Truman Show. It's a satire of the world being a simulation.
Yeah.
and the whole point is him wanting to fly to Fiji. And so while I was watching, I was like, how could they like fulfill this wish and keep him in the thing, keep him on in the bubble? And I was like, they'd have to like put him in a plane 3 days, and they just like put him in a coma, and he wakes up and everyone's in different costumes and be like, welcome to Finland.
Exactly.
You are, yeah.
Pretty much. Well, I think for that movie, they made him afraid of travel. They made him afraid of water.
Yeah, they made him afraid of water and everything like that, but eventually he got so sick of it, the human drive to leave wherever
Yeah.
they are. And then they were like, well, no, sky's the wall.
I've been thinking about this for a little bit, and I think one of the big issues is because of the internet, because we have so much information, we've lost credibility. There's no longer a source where everybody in the table goes, well, we know this is true. I mean, because even if you have a biology book, there's some guy who's on YouTube showing on why this biology book was invented by this guy.
That's their thing.
And therefore, it's all wrong. Like, we've lost so much credibility that now it's become a touchy. This has become a touchy subject. Or about the Earth being flat being a touchy subject, or dinosaurs not being real. What year
I
is
see
this?
a picture of them right now.
They're right there.
That was a selfie.
I got them in pops.
The dumbest are always the loudest.
Yeah.
And
That
they,
too.
and they
'Cause they're
have
projecting
platforms everywhere.
Yeah, and they used to they didn't allow dumb people to talk in schools, so you didn't listen to as many dumb people. Maybe you heard them at the bar, and you're like, "Oh, that's just dumb Greg." Now with the internet,
Plays
this
bass,
dumb person has
vaccine.
can get millions and millions of people to listen to them.
To my point, we have a platform, multiple
But, yeah,
platforms.
it's scary.
And that's bad.
Yeah, no.
This is true.
But also to your point too, I think part of that ruining credibility isn't just that we have information coming from everywhere. It's also we consider so many people like people would consider the four of us, I guess, like comedic professionals because it's something that we pursue and we do
Openly.
Yeah, but it's not something that I would consider like me to be an expert at, right?
Yeah.
But some people, like, I would consider myself more of an expert than the dude who's never been on stage that doesn't do comedy.
Yeah.
I consider myself an expert in that. So, and to that same extent, we also consider people who are considered expert or professionals to be people who are much less than they were back in the day.
Yeah.
Like, back when we were younger, a professional was a doctor or a scientist, somebody who, like, went to school for that. They studied this thing. They know it. And now it's like, well, I have the access to all that information for Google, so what makes you different than me?
Yes.
Okay, so you don't value the government because they've lied in the past. And so now they lie about everything. And you don't value the science article because they could have been bought out by Big Pharma or it was funded. But then to promote something else you agree with, you use the scientific study. You can't cherry pick. And that's where I'm at. You have to pick a truth. And you have picked no truth. So you are exclusively biased. I've picked my truth. It's science. And if it shows it that, I know it has its whole scientific method to sift out the garbage. And we go, well, I wish that was true, but it's not. I have to accept it.
My favorite argument, people are like, oh, you follow science. It's like, well, science is just a theory. I'm like, oh, you don't understand fourth grade science. That's there it is.
You don't know what the word theory means.
And also the idea, they're like, well, then they're just wrong and then they just change it. I'm like, yeah, they change it when they have better evidence to support.
That's
that's
my
the way
favorite
everything
argument.
should be.
Yeah.
Like,
they were wrong and they said, hey, we were wrong. And everyone's like, weakness.
No, you should have to learn it one time and that's it.
Yeah.
After I learn it, it's fact.
That's why I wanted to be a history teacher when I was younger. I learned it once and it's over. Yeah.
no, even that changes all the time too. So
Well, I learn it 1 year at a time.
Yeah. It's just goofy. And I think, I don't know, like I said, I think it's that loss of credibility. And we've even lost the credibility of the word science. Because you could say, oh, why I believe in science. Those people go, well, I believe in science.
Do your research.
And
that's
they're,
what they say.
Yeah. Do your research. I went on Google and I looked at all these mom blog posts and, they've never had kids before, but they know what they're saying. Mm-hmm. And it's just, it's a crazy thing.
I don't know if you guys have plans ever to have kids. Mm-hmm. The mom culture, the crazy mom culture is the worst.
Yeah.
You like as
I don't know about the worst.
No,
there's some other groups out there.
Okay.
Have you met some gamers?
I have never faced more ridicule from just nosy moms, people that I've never met before in my entire life about how we're raising our kid. It is
get that a lot.
Insanity.
Yeah.
And it's
we get a lot of money. Like, we'll be out at the store and some old people will walk up and just be like, here's $1 for a piggy bank. We've got,
that's a weird
it's
one.
strange.
What?
Yeah.
What? For what?
Like,
How
just walking
homeless
by.
do you guys look as you're walking?
Very homeless.
Like, this happened to me at a restaurant while we were eating. Somebody came
you
up
had
and gave us
kids
money.
with
Yeah, because
you?
we had the kid.
Got
and she's
it.
like, here, put it in your
I gotta
piggy
get me a
bank.
kid.
Mind you, they were at Target and his kid was just like sucking on a chicken bone. And so it's like, well,
And crying.
please, sir, can I have some more?
We kept her inside the cardboard box.
Right.
Good.
Yes.
It's insane.
This is a little off. Back to what we were talking about just a little bit. There's a site you can go to. I don't remember the link to it, but it shows all of the correlations that exist. Not all of them, but a lot of them. To like, there's a 99% correlation between drinking a glass of milk and an airplane crash or something like that. And there's like, this is why correlation doesn't. It's like the most obnoxious things, like cream cheese consumption going up, divorce rates go down. That's one of them. To a 99% correlation.
Yeah.
And it's just filled with
I'm
all
saving
of
the marriage.
just proving how literally means nothing cream cheese divorce.
Well, yeah, it's like the classic thing of when ice cream melts, there's increased shark attacks. It's like, okay, well, it's warm out, people are swimming. The more people out swimming, the higher chance you are of shark attacks. But the correlation is, oh yeah, melted ice cream, shark attacks.
Yeah.
What?
But then I'm not surprised because there's like an active group of flat earthers and Holocaust deniers and like just it's an insane time we live in.
I think Joe Rogan put it best, where he's like, there are some vegans who are good, and then there's some vegans who are just vegans because Scientology didn't find them first. And I think that's perfect. It's just like there's these group of people who are just like, well, there's nothing else interesting about me, so I'm that guy who brags about wearing shorts in the winter. Like I had to pick something.
Yeah. No, everyone has their thing.
Yeah.
That's why we should start a cult, I think.
And I think
well, it's apparently very easy.
part of the
You
issue,
did offer me Kool-Aid the second I walked in.
Yeah. You got about 10 minutes to get somewhere safe.
You should be knocked out from what you drank in about 5 seconds.
I show up in your place with a
Not
robe.
again.
Oh, rats.
You like look at the camera.
Whamp, whamp.
Sorry.
Kramer runs in.
And I think the big fear now too is since we've lost a lot of this kind of, in a way, credibility for things, it's just, all right, well, when I send my kid to school, is he going to actually learn 2 + 2 is 4? Or is some teacher going to be in there and be like, all right, let me tell you guys about Finland.
right.
That's the thing too. When we moved back to Michigan because we had a baby and wanted to be around family. Then we were looking at houses. Our whole family lives downriver. So we had to we got to try to buy a house in an area that we can afford, but also have her go to decent schools. You know what I mean? And that's a thing you have to do when you have kids. But even with that, you could just have a cracked out teacher, and
Yeah.
Every year there's one getting fired for saying something or affair.
Yeah.
I sound like Fox too.
And
You're good.
and the thing too is there's people that I went to school with that are teachers now, and it's like, I don't know if I quite want you to be teaching
Isn't
my
that
kid.
funny?
Yeah.
Right. Those people are also cops and other
Yeah, so
things.
that's a thing too.
Yeah.
I had a problem with authority beforehand. I'm like, you were
Weren't good at
definitely
base.
racist.
I think in a way though that might be very humbling, because you can go, okay, like when you're a kid, or when you're an adult, you expect so much from your teachers of do everything perfect. But then as you get older, you realize, oh wait, Greg's a teacher. Like, okay, maybe these are humans that are teaching our kids and not perfected robots that should do everything that we want them to do perfectly.
And I also understand that.
Well, oddly enough, that's the same realization when I had a kid that I had about my parents.
Yeah.
Was
Oh,
that-
yeah.
Oh, my parents were just people trying to figure it out and get through life too.
Yeah.
But I held them to that standard of well, they're my parents. They should know everything.
They
should...
created me. They should
Right.
be gods.
Right.
They
absolutely.
were always here.
I
They
have-
were the always.
I have that conversation with my parents quite often.
I do too, but mine are dead.
Right.
Oh, jeez.
Well,
He's just got a Ouija board.
well, only one that you know of.
Yeah, that's true.
The other one could be in this very room.
Son?
Dad.
I had a conversation with them, and I was the third of 4 kids from my parents, and I only got one. And my daughter she's crazy. She's a toddler. She's hard-headed and funny. And my mom's like, that was you, but you had 3 other siblings. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I can't even imagine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they didn't always know what they were doing, and we have better tools now, but then there's a lot of stuff that I don't know what I'm doing, and it's just basically just trying not to fuck your kid up.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
That's
think. Well,
it's kind of the bar. Don't mess them up too much.
And I said this before on our podcast. The thing that I want most out of life is for her to be exposed to as many things as possible so she can figure out who she is and what she likes and then cultivate that. That's
Amen.
all I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And if I can do that, I feel like I've accomplished something.
Yeah.
And that's it. I just
That's perfect.
play her music and show her dancing and whatever.
Show her things, and I mean, even see Neil deGrasse Tyson said, he goes, if you want, someone asked him, how do you get your kids into astronomy? He goes, if you want them to get astronomy, just put binoculars near them. Don't make them blah, blah, blah. And then if they pick them up and they look and they like them, maybe they'll want to do it a little bit more, and then they'll want something else. Then they'll ask you for whatever, and just give them the opportunity to play with things. Guy with no kids.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. Another
You're gonna
guy,
make a great daddy one day.
Yes.
Another guy with no kids. There's something really interesting though when you see, and it's kind of cringy when you see these parents try to live their life through their kids. Like, you're gonna make it to the basketball team, and the kid just grew up since he was 4 years old playing basketball, not really knowing why. He just knows that when he does it, his dad lets him sit in the front seat. Like, that's
Past the guitar store just fondly. I guess I'll never play that.
Yeah. Whereas, like, you kind of
like
got
this
to
is
realize that your
deep.
kid isn't you, even though he looks like you and he might act like you. He's that kid might still have completely different hobbies and interests and experiences and all that, and you have to kind of embrace that versus just like, no, he's gonna play the drums, and that's what he's gonna do because I played the drums, and therefore he's gonna do that.
No, I know. My dad, he would have loved if I stuck with hockey and me play hockey. I can't do anything sports related. That's not me. I'm not built for it. But when I got older and showed interest in music, no one in my family played music, but he was like, yeah. And they always supported that, and that was really cool. And when I got older, and me and my friends in the early YouTube days would film dumb stuff in the front yard, they're
Absolutely.
like,
That's us.
they're like, yep, cool, that's his thing. And they,
Yeah.
we'd show them the video, and my mom would be like, I'm proud of you.
It's so
I'm not, but
Deep
I
down,
am.
like, I'm dying.
it's so
Hey,
funny.
it's better
how,
than
like,
drugs.
You know what? Super accurate.
Well, at least he's not going to be having any kids.
Yeah.
And then I did. And she's like, fuck.
When will this end?
It's so funny how the same exact thing of like the amount of pride my dad had when I played baseball and I wrestled. He lit up like it was Christmas morning for him. And
That was his weekend.
He loved it. He was just like there's videos of him filming me and he's like yelling in like a positive way. I didn't have the heart to tell him.
There's my son out there.
This is the last season of this, but eventually
I've never been prouder.
right. But then, and I was, whatever. And then eventually I started doing videos and stand up, and he's all about it. And I was like, didn't see that coming.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Not that he was weird about it.
It's really
but-
cool.
Yeah.
My parents are, coming to our paid show next week. They're coming out to see that, and that's really cool that they support me. They don't always agree with the things that I say.
Yeah.
What?
Like even they're watching my kid right now while I'm here, and my dad's like, "Oh, when's that coming out? I want to listen to it." Like he's interested in what I do, and that's awesome. And I definitely appreciate that.
Awesome. Send him the link.
Like,
joke-
subscribe.
We joke, but my family's all dead, so I don't have anybody to listen anymore.
Okay,
That's what I was
okay.
getting
Boom,
at.
boom, ba-doom, boom.
No,
So the Batman shirt is accurate.
yes, yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. Very nice.
Except for if like Batman's mom got shot and Dad just booked it.
Jeez.
Instead of getting shot by Joe Cool, they just died via Joe Camel slowly.
Stop making me
So-
laugh at this.
And then he didn't become a vigilante. He just became this, whatever this is.
A mess.
What are your powers? Depression. I just bum everybody out in the room.
I do call him the Incredible Sulk.
It's accurate.
You wouldn't like me when I'm angsty. Just,
See, you know what's interesting too is that everybody thinks that comics kind of all have that kind of same thing, but the beauty about being a comedian is people from totally different backgrounds of how they grew up, how they interpret the world, can all have that need of like, I want to make people laugh and I want to perform and I want to tell stories and I want to write jokes. It's not specifically just the awkward kid or the super outgoing guy that's just funny at the bar. It could be just a whole. I mean, we all have different experiences, and yet we're all comedians and we're all doing this.
And with that, I mean, with you were saying as far as it being a form of therapy, did you find it like, because there's a sense of power that comes from it, and using that as your weapon, have you found that at all?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's why, like, he was talking about, like, I used to have a bunch of bits about, like, suicide and stuff, and a lot of that was because I was going through a bunch of shit and I just wanted to write about that and get that out of my system. And once I did it and did it on stage a few times, I was like, all right, they're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
I was able to kind of move on from that. So it's like, in that sense, I try to, when I write my jokes and stuff, I try to write from a personal standpoint or from like things that have happened to me. So that way I know that they're original ideas and events and things.
They're real.
And that I'm also I'm not having to make things up. Like you're saying, it was real. And at the same time, I'm also working through that event in my mind and processing what happened.
Yeah.
While it's so like like I was saying, like if the suicide bits don't go anywhere, or if I have something else that I've trying to write about that's not going anywhere, I know, okay, maybe it's not actually funny in this sense, but it was something that happened that I was trying to process or work through, and now I know to move on from that. I'm okay to move on from that and to write something else.
We talked about that too. It's not that those jokes don't work. He could do those jokes if it's a room full of us, a bunch of his friends.
Yeah.
Because we know, that it's a little bit dark, but we know where he's coming from. It's when you do it in front of like just a bunch of strangers who are like, hey man, no, it's cool. Like,
Right. I forget that like people don't regularly joke about suicide and things like that because I talk to these guys all the time.
Isn't
and it's
that
just
weird?
something that we
And we've been trying to
toss
push him
around.
towards it for years.
Yeah.
And as comedians too, we're so used to playing in the chaos of like what is something we're not supposed to say.
Oh, that's 100%.
We were talking
Let's
about that on the
play
way
with that.
here, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. Comedy for me was always my defense against bullies.
Yeah.
I was that kid in elementary school. That was picked on a lot, and my mom let me watch everything when I was a kid. Like I watched SNL, Kids in the Hall, Mr. Show, a bunch of stand up. Like South Park came out when I was 7. I watched that. So I had a really weird sense of humor on top of being like a chubby nerdy kid. So I used comedy because I could talk circles around any other kid.
Yep.
And that was my defense against it. Probably got me beat up more than if I would have just shut up and took it. But
like punching you, they're like, please stop talking. You're making me do it more.
stop doing bits.
You're like, so wouldn't it be funny if like you're punching me and then someone walks through the door?
I'm like, wait. Who's on first? But that was that was my life, and then I think probably my problem is, and I think I regulated that more now I'm an adult, is once I got past being bullied phase, I was just always going. I was always making jokes, always like, you can't hurt me, I'm gonna make fun of you first, type of thing. And then that kind of maybe why I was always in the office when I was in high school and always in trouble. Had a problem with authority. Said things to adults. My mom, her favorite thing to bring up is when we talk about comedy and whatnot, and like the things that my kid does now. She goes, yeah, every time we would go for a parent-teacher conference or when we'd have to go pick you up because you got in trouble for saying something, they would always say the same thing. Bryan has a advanced sense of humor. And that's always the word that they use.
Funny.
Advanced. You're like, ooh.
Which was a
lacking elsewhere, but he's got a good sense of humor.
I'm not in any of the advanced placement classes, but I got advanced
He
humor.
is dumb.
Advanced improv.
It was a nice way of them saying, like, your son's an asshole.
He's got a great personality.
Yeah. Like, he's not much to look at, but oh my God, is he? Yeah.
So guys, where can people find you? Where can they, for future shows, anything? This is your
Advertise.
time to sign. Advertise, promote, plug it in.
Facebook.com/Moist Definitely Podcast is where all of our stuff gets posted. The events and things are shared through there. Moist Def Pod on Twitter and Moist Def Productions on Instagram is our social medias.
Is your podcast available? Where's it available at? iTunes, Spotify?
We
Google
are
Play?
fucking everywhere. We
You are
are
everywhere.
on Spotify. We are on Pandora, I think.
ColecoVision.
No, not Pandora. Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, Player FM, all the good ones.
The Wii homepage.
Yep.
Alexa next week.
Oh, yeah, and also, so I want to make sure I mention this as well. Our next show is March 29th, and then our next show for Pizza Hummus Presents in April is going to be April 26th.
Yep.
Is that it? Yep, April 26th. So
Both of those at Eats and Crafts and Escape in Troy.
sweet.
Awesome, guys. Thank you so much.
Sounds good.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Here we go. Now, here we go. Here we go. Now,